What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast and another week of Powerhouse Mentality training in the free private Facebook community of the Powerhouse Mentality. Every single week at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I go live in the group on a topic of nutrition or on mental toughness. And this week we are talking nutrition, and because Halloween is on Thursday, we are going to talk about overcoming cravings and emotional eating. Now, before we get into the topic, I just need to say something. If September and October, or if time continues to move as quickly as it did through September and October, then Christmas will be here in 3 hours. Because I don't know about you guys, but September and October flew by, and I have no idea how it's already October 28th and how Halloween is in a few days. But for the first time in my entire adult life, I bought Halloween candy earlier than October 30th at like 9 p.m., which is usually when I say, oh shit, I should go to Walmart and get some Halloween candy. I got it this weekend at Target. And you know what? I'm really happy about the selection that I have for the children. But that's neither here nor there, because I don't know about you guys, but I just love being the person, the house that has like good stuff, you know? I don't want to be like that house that everybody dreads to go to. One day, and this is when you know I've made it, I will hand out full-size candy bars to all of the children who come to my house. Because what's Halloween without a little bit of candy? Now, a lot of people might be listening to this or watching this and saying, you can't give kids candy. I can on Halloween. Don't tell me what to do, Karen. But, guys, let's get into the topic of today. So, first, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to avoid stress or emotional eating and how to build a strong relationship with food. A lot of people struggle with having a poor relationship with food, myself included. I am working on it, and there's one thing that I'm committing to this week that I've already told my nutrition coach about, and that is to have a piece of Halloween candy, one piece. And it might sound stupid to anybody listening. However, I don't think it does, because I think that a lot of people do struggle with this. It's been over 10 years since I've allowed myself to have a piece of Halloween candy, because 10 years ago I had an eating disorder and I never looked back. And every single year, Stone buys me, that we've been together, so the past 4 years, Stone has bought me my favorite candy, which is Reese's Pumpkins, and he's bought them for me. And I always have one, and I put it in the freezer. And then it fucking sits in the freezer for the entire year, and I throw it away. So this year, I am committing, and I'm saying this on the podcast, and I'm saying this on the Powerhouse Mentality training, so that you guys can hold me accountable to having a Reese's Pumpkin on Halloween. Because again, having one piece of candy is not going to destroy your progress. In fact, I would say that mentally, a lot of people would probably do well having a piece of candy and proving to themselves that they can have one piece and one piece only, right? And more than anything, that one piece isn't going to destroy your progress, mentally or physically. And if you can stop at one piece, I would say that you're more disciplined than most people. So, we're going to start off, like I said, talking about how to avoid stress and emotional eating and build a strong relationship with food. And then I want to break it down a little bit to bring our core values, the Powerhouse core values, into this to help you kind of apply it into your life. Because again, as in Powerhouse Mentality fashion, I'm not just about giving you the information, I'm about giving you the application behind these things. So let's get into it. But first, I want to start off with some input from you guys. And if you're listening to this, you can just kind of think about your answer in your head. But if you're watching this on the live, I'd love for you to put your answer in the comments. So, a few questions. One, who here has ever done some sort of stress or emotional eating, or has an idea of what that feels like? Go ahead, type me, or just say me if you're listening to this. Number two is, how often do you experience this? And be honest with yourself. Number three, what kinds of foods specifically do you typically eat during these moments? And number four, last but not least, and this is the most important one, do you know why you're experiencing this stress or emotional eating? Do you know why these cravings are happening? Do you know why? Because today we're going to talk about some tactics that you can use to overcome and avoid stress eating so you can develop good habits with food. But stress eating starts with feeling a craving. But why does that craving happen and where does it come from? And the last question that I asked you guys was super important because it goes into the first tactic, and that is awareness. Most of the time when we have stress eating episodes or moments like this, we don't think too much about it. We attribute it to maybe I was just too hungry and I went a long time without eating, or it was just like a random occurrence. But generally, there is going to be some sort of a trigger to it. So I'm going to drop a couple of examples that maybe some people here can relate to. Now, someone who buys cookies or ice cream and needs to eat the entire package or the entire carton at once, they can't control themselves. They like blacked out, right? It could stem back to childhood. If you grew up in a big family when you almost had to fight for the food, because if you didn't have it now, then you would never have it because it would be gone. So it could be a habit or a behavior that you've practiced your entire life, but you weren't fully aware of until now. Or maybe you find that you crave fast food after a long day of work. And this could be because you're hungry, or it could be because you find comfort in the food after a long, stressful day. Because maybe when you had a bad day when you were a kid, your parents were like, hey, let's go to McDonald's, or hey, let's get some ice cream. And you associated ice cream or McDonald's or fast food or those comfort foods with allowing you to feel better. There is a fly in my office, dear Lord. It went in my face. So number 2, you want to create space, all right? So when the impulse or the craving pops up, your goal should be to create as much space as possible between the impulse and the act of giving into the craving. For example, if you crave cookies, and I'm always going to use cookies as the example because cookies are the superior food. Don't bring them into the house, okay? Easier said than done, I know, for a lot of people. Maybe you have kids and you allow them to have these things, which is not a problem. Moderation, right? But tell yourself you can have the cookies, because let's be honest, if you tell yourself you can't have something, you probably want it more. But you have to go and get them if you want them. So by the time you get dressed, drive to the grocery store to get them, the impulse may have passed. Or even if you do give into it, you've allowed space. So it's not an immediate thing, right? Because a lot of people, what happens is you almost, like I said, you black out. And before you realize it, you've already eaten half of the container of cookies. And this could even happen if you're door dashing something, because I know that a lot of people do that. So if you're door dashing something, create a 2 to 3 hour window from now to when the delivery comes. That way you give yourself space or time to realize that you don't need it and you can cancel the order or change it for something better. Now, usually cravings or these impulses are strictly emotionally based. So if we allow ourselves to let that emotion pass, or we process that emotion through doing other things, that craving too shall pass. This too shall pass. That's been my mantra for the past 4 weeks. Now, one more example could be every time that I crave this, I can have it, but I have to do 20 push-ups, or I have to do 10 burpees, or I have to go on a 10-minute walk first. You do the act and the craving passes, or you don't feel like doing the act because who the fuck wants to do burpees? So you don't give in, all right? Number 3 is mindfulness. Now, this mindfulness can help you break the cycle of stress eating. When you feel the urge to eat due to stress or some other negative emotion, and I hate the word negative emotion because these are just emotions and we all feel them and there's not a problem with them. It's being human. But when you feel that trigger coming on, pause and identify what's really happening. So find alternative activities that can help you cope with these emotions, such as meditation, such as going on a walk, reading, journaling, listening to music. It's different for every single person. Maybe you just need to get a workout in. So by interrupting the cycle and replacing the stress eating with healthier behaviors, you can gradually rewire your habits. And all of those 3 things that I just spoke about are more of the behavioral side of things. But I do also want to get into things that we can do nutritionally to actually help to avoid the cravings in the first place. But again, if you're not dealing with the inner work or the emotional side of things, then it's going to be really difficult for you to just mask it with nutrition, if you know what I mean. The inner work is just as important, if not more important, than the outer work or the nutrition and the training. Now, some nutritional tactics that you can do, aka using the food that we eat to help you reduce the urge to stress eat, because cravings are more likely to come up when you're hungry, or if it's been way too long since you've had a good meal. It's kind of like the Snickers commercial, right? By the way, Snickers are one of the greatest candy bars of all time. Reese's is superior, but is Reese's really a candy bar? That's kind of like taboo, right? But anyway, you're not always you when you're hungry. That's the tagline for the Snickers commercial. And we probably all remember a specific situation when we got a little bit emotional because we were starving. The hangry came out. I know, like, if you've ever been with me when I haven't eaten in a bit, you probably didn't like me because I'm a bitch when I'm hangry. And Stone always makes sure that I have snacks with me whenever I go out to prevent the hanger. Now, when we get hangry, that usually causes us to make less than optimal choices with our food if we don't have the discipline. So when we're more likely to binge or reach for foods that we know aren't serving our goals is when we're hangry. So those Oreos sit in the cabinet look really tasty when we're hungry and emotional. But we can prevent this from happening with a few different strategies. So planning out and scheduling your meals based on what fits your lifestyle and your schedule best. You might see some fitness gurus out there telling you that 5 or 6 meals a day is the best way to go, but it's not for you, then it's not for you. If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. Or you have to eat 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day. And if you go all over the internet, you can find evidence to support this one works better or this one works better, when in all reality, it doesn't fucking matter if it doesn't fit your life. So you have to plan out and schedule your meals for your life. So if you're eating smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day, though, when a craving hits, you can say, oh, well, I have this meal prep I can just heat up, or I have this high protein thing that I snack, like a beef stick or a protein bar or a shake, which will make it easier to overcome the craving than if you had absolutely nothing prepared. So planning out and scheduling your meals is going to be a really, really helpful thing if you struggle with this. When you don't have a plan, it makes it much easier for you to give into those cravings since you have no other options. All right, so like think about it. If it's a Friday night, you got off of work, and instead of having your proteins and your everything prepped at home, you don't have anything. You ran out of meal prep. And so you're like, well, fuck it. I'll just order pizza, or I'll just go to Chick-fil-A. You know, you can make good choices, but most of the time, especially after a long day, you're not going to make those good choices. So if you have nothing, maybe it's been 4 or 5 hours since you had a good meal and you had a stressful day at work. You stop at the drive-thru when that craving hits. If you hadn't gone so long without eating and had something ready to go at home, that craving probably never would have been a problem for you. You would have been able to easily overcome it. Now, I'm not saying that these things are going to help you every single time that you have a craving, but better safe than sorry. Protein is another huge thing that's going to help you. Not only does protein help with fat loss and muscle gain and longevity, but protein is also the most satiating macro, meaning it's going to help you stay full for longer periods of time. Now, if you're full, you're less likely to have cravings. And we know that a lot of you, when you first started eating more protein, you could probably relate to this, you probably complained about how full you were and how difficult it was to eat. So eat your protein and your cravings will decrease over time. Now, you could also use the same tactic with fiber or fruits and vegetables, so keep that in mind. Water is another thing that'll fill you up, but also keeping your body hydrated is going to help your body, your cells, and your metabolism operate more efficiently. So it's kind of like a win-win. So usually if you're drinking a lot of water, you're less likely to experience cravings because you're just full of water and you're properly hydrated. And a lot of times people do actually mistake being thirsty for being hungry. However, not all of the time. So if you say you're hungry and somebody tells you just drink a cup of water, you should probably just walk away and get a meal because your body needs food, not water. But that's just a little bit of input. And finally, this is like hack. You guys can use low-calorie foods to keep your mouth busy. I do this all the time with gum or even with sparkling water that I drink because I have a big appetite, right? But sometimes cravings can pop up because you're bored. So chewing gum can help, using carbonated water can help, or even using things that are super low calorie but take a long time to eat, like pickles and carrots. They're super low calorie, but if you are using those things, make sure you track them. Obviously, carbonated water and gum, you don't have to track, but make sure you're tracking carrots if you're eating them because they can add up if you're eating a tremendous amount of them. But I hope that these tactics, like kind of added a little bit of value to you guys, but I do also, like I said, I want to tie it into the core values of the Powerhouse Mentality because, look, Halloween is a fun time, but it can also be a huge challenge for a lot of people when it comes to staying on track with your goals. And for the Powerhouse Mentality members and for all of the people who are listening to the podcast right now, our goal isn't about restriction. It's about becoming mentally strong enough to control your choices, align your choices with your goals, and enjoy these moments and indulgences without derailing your progress. So this week, with Halloween coming up, and then of course with like Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up after that, I want you to practice the core values together when it comes to overcoming cravings, okay? So number 1, seek intentional discomfort. Halloween gives you a chance to practice this intentional discomfort when it comes to cravings. All right, so when those cravings hit, we're building mental toughness by saying no when we don't really need that extra treat, or saving your candy, that one piece of candy that I'm going to have, for a mindful indulgence later instead of mindlessly snacking, right? Again, this isn't about deprivation. It's about making choices that strengthen our control over the cravings. Number 2, keep the commitments that you make to yourself. So decide on a game plan now, today, tomorrow, before Halloween. How many treats are you going to enjoy? When are you going to have them? And what does that look like for you on your journey? So set the commitment, stick to the commitment, set the standard, hold the standard. And each time you follow through, you're building self-trust, you're building confidence, you're building belief, which is absolutely crucial for staying on track with all of your goals. And then number 3, never stop learning. This week and the weeks following, with all the holidays coming up, I want you guys to reflect on how your body and mind react to cravings and treats. So are there emotional triggers? Do you feel certain cravings at certain times? Use this as a learning experience to understand how to navigate other events that test you. Learning from each holiday, or learning from every single situation that you have where a craving pops up, brings you closer to mastering your nutrition and your nutritional mindset long term. So the mission for Halloween for you guys is that I want you to enjoy without excuses. And what I mean by that, it's let's aim to enjoy the holiday without letting it become an excuse to fall off track. The Powerhouse Mentality is all about overcoming excuses and taking charge of your actions. By following the commitments that you make to yourself, practicing moderation, and building your mental toughness, you're embodying the Powerhouse Mentality core values, even when you're faced with a big bowl of candy. Like I said, it's not about deprivation. It's not about restriction. It's about being strong enough to control your choices, align with your goals, and enjoy the indulgences without derailing progress. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you guys. I hope that this training was helpful. If it was, please share it with at least one person. I know that somebody needs this message that isn't here. And go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.